I do have a note, and I'm curious what you think about this. We were actually about to go live to Vice President Kamala Harris, who's speaking right now in Detroit, Michigan, and apparently she's talking about this port strike ending. She's trying to appeal to union workers, and yet you have the President of the United States come out clearly overshadowing her, answering significant questions. Is that a communications mistake? Is the left hand not talking to the right hand in this situation?
That's a very good point. And if they were coordinated, as you assume they would be, this would not have happened.
There have obviously been a number of crises that the country has been facing over the past several days, with the hurricane, with the port strike, with the situation in the Middle East. Can you talk about how your vice president, who is running for the presidency, has worked on these crises and what role she has played over the past several days?
Well, I'm in constant contact with her. She's aware we're singing from the same song sheet. She helped pass all the laws that are being employed now. She was a major player in everything we've done, including passage of legislation which we were told we could never pass. And so she's been, and her staff is interlocked with mine in terms of all the things we're doing.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. I gotta tell you guys, what you guys just saw there from Biden is what I like to call Dark MAGA Joe, okay? And Dark MAGA Joe says the quiet part out loud about Kamala Harris that will ultimately tank her campaign, which is that she is responsible for his disastrous agenda, okay? Biden has come out here and started saying things that the Kamala Harris campaign does not want Biden said out loud, and he's saying these things at the worst possible time for Kamala Harris. Like, for example, what you guys saw at the beginning of this video. Kamala Harris is in Michigan because she desperately needs this state in order to win. And I'm going to show you guys some of the disastrous numbers that have come out for Kamala Harris and why her campaign is tanking right now. But she's giving a campaign speech to try to get union workers on her side because the union workers are going for Trump in droves, right? So she's desperately trying to get them on board with her agenda. And for whatever reason, Joe Biden decides that this is a good time to hold another press conference at the White House, which he's talking about the hurricane. And as he's holding his press conference, he is basically talking about how Kamala Harris has been involved and is responsible for his disastrous agenda, which is the last thing that Kamala Harris and her campaign should want right now, 1 month out from the election, going into the election, especially considering how voters do not like the current direction of this country. And if you consider the history of when voters don't like the current direction of the country and they want change, it's not looking good for Kamala Harris, who has branded herself as the candidate of change. And even CNN is admitting that history is not on Kamala Harris's side, and her campaign probably should be panicking about the current state in which things are going. Take a look.
Way over expectations. Unemployment low at 4.1%, dropping. Seems to say the economy is in a good place. One of the numbers, Harry Etten, senior data reporter Harry Etten is here. One of the numbers we always talk about in elections is, do voters think the country is on the right track or the wrong track? What do the polls show?
Yeah, if we look at whether voters believe we're on the right track or the wrong track, I think that this sort of gets at a problem for Kamala Harris's campaign. Just 28% of Americans think the U.S. is on the right track. And I want you to put that into perspective, right? When does the average, when the incumbent party loses the election, look at that. It's just 25%. That looks a heck of a lot like that 28%, right, that currently think the country is on the right track. When the White House party wins, i.e. Kamala Harris's party, the Democrats, 42% on average think that the country is on the right track. This 25% looks a lot more like this 28%. It doesn't look anything like this 42%. This, to me, is a bad sign for Kamala Harris's campaign. The bottom line is, it looks a lot more like a loser than it does like a winner when it comes to the country being on the right track.
Can an incumbent party win with numbers like this?
Yeah, so if we look historically speaking, right, and we say, okay, say the U.S. is on the right track, the incumbent party, when they win. Today, again, it's just 28%. Look throughout history, right? 96, 88, 04, 12, 84. In all of these instances, far more than 28% thought that the country was on the right track. 39 was the lowest back in 1900, and 96. We got upwards of 47% in 84. Of course, that was a blowout, right, for Ronald Reagan. So there is no historical precedent for the White House party winning another term in the White House when just 28% of the country thinks that we're on the right track. John, simply put, it would be historically unprecedented.
So you see that, you heard that. It would be historically unprecedented for Kamala Harris to win this election, considering how only a quarter of this country believes that it is going in the right direction. And typically when your numbers are that bad, you end up losing, okay? So Kamala Harris does not have history on her side, which is why she is making these very desperate moves. Like, for example, rolling out Liz Cheney to campaign with her on the campaign trail while singing the praises of her and Dick Cheney. Again, Kamala Harris thinks that it's a good idea to be seen on the campaign trail with probably the most disliked politician in the country, okay? And there's no surprise to me that you have the cackling heads on The View in full-blown panic, begging voters to go out to vote for Kamala Harris in the wake of Liz Cheney campaigning with Kamala Harris. Take a look.
To the other side of the ticket now, and the other side of Lake Michigan, really. Something that might have been unheard of a few years ago happening in Wisconsin. Cheney and a Democrat rallying together. Former Congresswoman Liz Cheney introducing Vice President Harris at the rally earlier tonight, as well as her father, former Vice President Dick Cheney, who of course endorsed Harris for president. And Liz Cheney talked about why today.
I know that she loves our country, and I know that she will be a president for all Americans. As a conservative, as a patriot, as a mother, as someone who reveres our Constitution, I am honored to join her in this urgent cause.
Where there are so many powerful forces that have been intent on trying to demean and belittle and make people afraid.
Republicans out there who are sitting on the fence, just do it this one time. Do it this one time. Vote for the Democrat to save the country. Listen to Liz Cheney. When everything goes back to normal, then become a Republican again, like Alyssa will become, and probably Anna.
Kamala said the day of the robust two-party system will come back.
Well, but listen, the thing is this. We can have policy differences. You can have policy differences with Kamala. You can have policy differences with Liz Cheney. We are not at a point right now to be talking about policy differences. This is not about economic difference, because we are not running against a normal human being. Right. We are running against Donald Trump, who is an existential threat to humanity and democracy.
Before we just go, I do want to say, I am still a Republican, and I don't believe it's my job to tell people how to vote, but to give them the facts. And I have facts, having worked closely with them, that they just may not know. I feel that's my duty to the country. So I think, and allow the chips to fall where they may. People will decide how they vote, but that's what I'm going to do.
Kamala Harris is out on the campaign trail today with Liz Cheney. Your thoughts on that?
Well, Liz Cheney lost for Congress. She was terrible. Liz Cheney is a stupid war hawk. All she wants to do is shoot missiles at people. I really think it hurts. I think, frankly, if Kamala, I think they hurt each other. I think they're so bad, both of them.
Yeah, so I don't know about you guys, but I got a gut feeling that this is not going to help out Kamala Harris for obvious reasons that even Liz Cheney understood before she caught a severe case of Trump derangement that clearly has led to cognitive impairment.
President Harris will be able to unite this nation. I know that she will be a president who will defend the rule of law. So help us right the ship of our democracy.
In one fell swoop here, he has put somebody on the ticket whose voting record in the Senate is to the left of Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. So I think that, the American people are going to look at the substance of this. They're going to look at what she stood for in the past. They're going to look at what she said during the primary election. And it's very clear. She is a radical liberal. She's somebody that has said we ought to spend $32 trillion on Medicare for all. If you look at her record as well in California, she did, in fact, essentially ban gun sales with executive action. And she threatened during the primaries to do the same thing if she's elected if she were elected here. So I do think the American people are going to take a look at this record and realize she is very much a radical liberal.
To an August 2020 tweet that Cheney had previously posted that read, quote, Kamala Harris has a more liberal voting record than Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. Her radical leftist views, raising taxes, banning gun sales, taxpayer money for abortion and illegal immigrant health care, it goes on to say would be devastating for America. So this is.
I mean, I just fundamentally disagree that we won't have a democracy. I think this country is stronger than any individual politician in either party. And so I believe deeply that the policy differences matter. So did Liz Cheney at one point. She used to call Kamala Harris a radical liberal who would raise taxes, take away guns and health insurance, and explode the size and power of the federal government. Now, this means something to a lot of people. And so, I don't begrudge her viewpoints, and obviously she strongly dislikes Donald Trump and what he represents. But there are a heck of a lot of people in this country who thought they were getting something out of Biden and Harris that they did not get. And there's a lot of Republicans and conservatives who probably may have some proclivities that Cheney has about what Trump did on January the 6th, but are mortified at the policy outcomes of Biden and Harris. They were not moderates. They were radical liberals, just like Cheney predicted they would be. I think politics has a couple of purposes: win elections and govern. And the way Harris has governed the last 3.5 years, I cannot abide.
Yeah, again, I don't think that this is a good move for Kamala Harris. But hey, if she wants to campaign with one of the most unpopular politicians in the history of this country on a campaign trail in a swing state like Michigan, a state that she's on the verge of losing, by the way. In fact, there was a bombshell poll that just dropped showing that Kamala Harris is in fact losing to Trump in a must-win state of Michigan. And that is partly because young voters are rejecting Kamala Harris, the exact type of voter that probably is turned off by Liz Cheney. But Kamala Harris apparently is too stupid to realize this.
How is Vice President Harris performing with young voters compared to how President Biden did in 2020?
Some numbers, Anderson, to help with that question. Number one, just look at this choice for president. I want to stretch this out a little bit. Excuse me for turning my back. This is a recent New York Times Siena poll. It shows Donald Trump and the vice president tied among voters aged 18 to 29. Joe Biden carried that group by 24 points in 2020 in the exit polls. From being on the ground, remember, when you poll a smaller subgroup in a poll, there's a bigger margin of error. I can't quite believe it's a tie from being on the ground several times in Michigan, but there's no question the vice president is doing better than President Biden was doing earlier this year, when a lot of young voters didn't want him to be the candidate anymore. But she's not doing as well as he did back in 2020. There's no doubt about that. Absolutely no doubt about it.
Talk about these latest numbers that you have from your organization here. Two-way presidential poll, Trump 49%, Harris 48%, not sure 3%. Keep the numbers up here for a moment, if you would, Adam, our talented director, so you can discuss. Are you surprised by these numbers that we're looking at right now?
Actually, I was a little surprised. I thought at this point Harris may have been ahead. And so when that happens, you sort of look through them, and I keep working the numbers, and it is what it is. But more importantly, everybody looks at that two-way, but when everybody goes to to vote, there's 8 names on that ballot, and in the 8-way ballot test, we've got that dead even at 47% to 47%.
I'm just looking at this right now, and I'm looking at this margin. When they say, when Vance and Trump, the other day, the campaign said they're going to be here every week until Election Day, one of the two, and Kamala Harris is back. I mean, when you look at 49-48, they should just set up shop here, both those camps, right?
Well, they basically have. I mean, they ought to rent apartments somewhere in Detroit area because they have to keep coming back. This is a very pivotal state. It's one of the top 7 states. It is a very close state. They all are. I mean, look at all of the 7 states, and they're within 0.5%, within 1.5%. I mean, this is the closest race in American history.
So this...
Yeah, and when they say the closest race in American history, what that actually means is that it's on a collision course to be a landslide victory for Trump. Because if you guys understand how to actually read these polls, you have to build in the hidden Trump vote, right? That it seems as if, historically speaking, it's hard for pollsters to account for in their polls, right? And a lot of these polls, they're oversampling Democrats. Like, they're basically admitting out loud that, yeah, we've rigged quite a few of these polls, okay, with a bunch of Democrats and women that are going for Kamala Harris. But even still, with the rigged polls, the race is effectively tied, right? And if that's the case, again, that means, historically speaking, that it's a great chance that Trump is probably going to sweep on election day. That doesn't mean it's going to happen for sure. It doesn't mean it's 100% chance. I'm just saying based off of history, okay? Because we have another poll here to talk about. Battleground voters back experienced Donald Trump over establishment Kamala Harris in 7-state poll. Fresh polling of the 7 swing states widely seen as deciding factors in the presidential election hold good news for Donald Trump. The 1,598 likely voters Ipsos poll in Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin rate the Republican nominee better in key areas than Democratic candidate Kamala Harris. These impressions give context to an overall 1-point lead for the former president in the swing state survey, encompassing states with a total of 88 electoral votes. For starters, battleground voters are more than twice as likely to see the vice president as enthralled to the political establishment than they are the former president. Yeah, which is why it's a big deal for Joe Biden to keep coming out here and basically saying that Kamala Harris was involved in everything that his administration did, right? Kamala Harris has tried her best to get away from that, to distance herself, but she can't, okay? Because Biden keeps saying it, and this is hurting her. 35% of respondents believe Harris is a part of the current system, while just 16% make the same assertion about Trump. And though voters believe Harris is the establishment candidate, they also discount her lack of experience compared with the former president, again, by a more than 2-to-1 spread. A whopping 47% of respondents credit Trump with more experience. Just 21% believe Harris is the more seasoned selection, a seemingly damning dismissal of her nearly 4 years in office. Well, that's what you get when you come out here and you don't talk about what you actually did, right? What assignments did you do? Oh, well, she wasn't actually really board as czar. She doesn't take any responsibility for anything. Well, if she doesn't take any responsibility for anything, then what the hell did she do, right? Why did she get any credit for being vice president, right? What would make her more qualified than Trump, who has been in office, who was president, and we had good results under Trump, right? Again, voters aren't stupid, right? These people really believe that voters are stupid, but come to find out they actually aren't. Now, again, some of them are. A lot of them are. Okay, more than we'd like to believe. Okay, but I'm hoping and praying come this November that the American people show the Democrats that they are not as stupid as the liberal media and Democrats believe that they are. Okay, so with that being said, let's take a look at the overall averages here. Trump is ahead in the average of battlegrounds, which is what really matters. He's up in Arizona. Is tied in Pennsylvania. He's up in North Carolina. He's up in Georgia. Now, again, considering history, Trump typically overperforms. We know that he overperformed significantly in Wisconsin in 2016 and in 2020. And Harris is only up 0.8 percentage points, right? Which would equal Trump winning, right? If the same thing happens in this election that typically happens. Michigan, same story as well. Harris is only up on average 0.7 percentage points. If the Trump boost happens the same way that it always happens, or it has happened in the past, he's winning that state. Pennsylvania, same story. It's a tie. If the Trump boost comes in on election day, he's winning that state. So again, if history repeats itself for a third time, Trump is going to sweep, right? He's on pace to sweep Kamala Harris in this election. And they know it. Everybody knows it. Okay, this is why they went back to talking about January 6th. Because what Kamala Harris is doing, her campaign, is not working. Right? It's not working. Okay. She's losing momentum. So as you can see here from this chart, Kamala Harris is basically topped out, right? She essentially topped out around the first debate. Okay. And after that first debate, she seems to be losing momentum quickly, which is why I told you guys, I was like, the true winner of the debate will be determined by what the polls do after the debate. She clearly did not get the boost that she was looking for, which is why she's now begging for another debate, right? She wants another debate because she's losing, okay? If she was winning, then she would want another debate. If she was winning, then they wouldn't be talking about January 6th. If she was winning, she wouldn't be on the campaign trail with Liz Cheney. She'd be like, hell no, get away from me. This is the same woman that turned down RFK, right? She turned down RFK, but chose to be on the campaign trail with Liz Cheney. Come on, right? Again, this is just another example of the terrible decision-making of the Kamala campaign. Just absolutely terrible decision-making. She cannot make good decisions to save her life, right? She just can't. She just can't. I mean, imagine saying no to RFK, but yes to Liz Cheney. And then look at the result. Look at the result. Now she's on pace to basically get washed in this election if history repeats itself once again for a third time. And yeah, it's just not looking good for her right now. And I don't want you guys to get it twisted. This video is not for people to get cocky, to get complacent, or to get lazy. It's the exact opposite. It's to shed light on the fact that, hey, there's a path to victory. We can do it. We have the momentum. We just have to execute. We have to finish the job. One of my favorite quotes from one of my high school football coaches is sprint through the finish line, right? You have to sprint through the finish line. You have to finish the job, okay? You cannot let up, okay, at the last minute, because that's how you lose. You have to sprint through the finish line. That's all we have to do. Make sure you are registered to vote. Make sure that all of your stuff is taken care of, and go out there and vote and finish the job. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.